Hey there, I'm Dan Martell, serial entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. In this episode, I'm going to share with you how to pre-sell your software, the exact script flow, and even a little bit of a filter you need to add on who you talk to so that you can pre-sell your next software product and use that money to actually build it. And be sure to stay to the end where I'm going to share with you how to get access to my free mini course called Idea to Exit. It's literally not only how I go deeper in building a clickable prototype and pre-selling, etc., but even going into how to raise capital and exit your business at some point if you choose. I'll share more about that at the end. So here's the deal. Selling your software before you build it is a very attractive idea. I mean, if you think about it, no money out of pocket. I get people to pre-commit. I take that money, I build the software, and then I launch, and I kind of go from there. I first heard of this concept back by Steve Blank. So he wrote a book called The 4 Steps to the Epiphany. It used to be kind of like mandatory reading in the Valley. I feel like people have now moved on to like the Lean Startup and many other books. But 4 Steps to the Epiphany, it's a bit of a hard read. Steve literally, I think he sat down and just dumped it out of his mind, no editing, and then just published it, self-published. Get the book. Everything I'm going to share with you today is from that book and my experience. So like when we were selling Flowtown or trying to pre-sell Flowtown, like we stumbled. We thought we were doing customer development. We were actually just selling, okay? We were just really good salespeople. We made a ton of mistakes. And what I want to share with you is the lessons learned from that, how to think about the two parts of the conversation so that you not only learn, but you also get a commitment so that you don't end up in a scenario worse where you can't get anybody to commit, or I think even worse than that is you take money from people that were never going to be great customers for you and ask you to change your priorities. So let's get into it. Number one, early adopters only. So the way you need to think about this is in a market, there are people that are early adopters. I'm not going to get into the technology adoption curve where this comes from, but there's a chasm. Before that, there's kind of like your early majority and your early adopters and your innovators. The early adopters are people that are willing to wait. These are people that are looking for innovation. They're looking for an edge. So if I'm trying to pre-sell my technology, my innovation, my software, I can't be talking to people that are not early adopters, or I'm going to end up making concessions for my vision of the product to meet them, specifically if they're late adopters, right, laggards, then I'm going to get a false signal from the market. So how do you filter for those people? Think about what are the characteristics of an early adopter, right? What's true about the person's life, their environment, other tools they might use that might give you any inclination that they're an early adopter. So one example I used a lot back in the day, now I use Snapchat, is if they had Instagram account on their business profile. That might tell you a little bit about their early adopters. If they're a corporation and they have a corporate social responsibility program in their organization, CSR, that tells you that from a cultural point of view, they're really trying to be progressive and they're trying to be involved in the community. So you want to look for what's true about the business. So here's where I see all the mistakes people make is if I would sell restaurant innovation software, and I live in a town of 100,000 people, which is where I grew up, I'm pretty sure nobody in my town at a restaurant level is winning awards for being the most innovative, progressive restaurant in all of Canada. If that's the case, then trying to pre-sell my software to those restaurants is going to be not only frustrating, it's going to fail because they're not going to be a true indication of what's possible in the market because these are not early adopters. So that's step one. Add that filter. It will save you so much time. Number two, offer value. So one of the things holding people back from reaching out to potential companies is they're like, well, why would this person get on a call with me? Well, here's the way I've always framed it, again, from 4 Steps to the Epiphany, is if I was building a marketing platform that helped people run better Facebook ads, I would say to a potential target, I would say, target's such a bad word. Let's call them like opportunity or prospect or client. Just feels better. So if I was trying to reach out to a potential client, I would say that I've been talking to a dozen of other companies and people in your role and other organizations just like you. I've learned a lot about what's worked for them. I would love your advice on how you're dealing with this today and kind of how you see the potential as a solution. And as a gift, as a reward, I'm going to share with you the top 3 lessons I've learned from talking to other people in your industry. All I need is about 8 minutes. How does next Tuesday at 2 p.m. sound? That's the ask. That's the email. That's the conversation. You can cold call. You can send an email. You can go to an event. You can just, but that to me is really saying, look, I know that you probably have this problem. So that they have to be problem aware. If they're not, you're doing a double sale. You're selling them on the problem and you're selling them on even evaluating your call. So you don't want to do double sales. So are they a problem aware? Are they somebody that wants to learn from other people in the industry? That kind of filters them out as an early adopter because early adopters want to learn. And that's the give. So 8 minutes on a call, you ask them about their situation, their structure. I'm going to walk you through that next. But that to me is you got to offer value to actually get them to engage. Number 3, part 1. So there's 2 parts to the call. Okay. So when I say a script, it's kind of like talk tracks. It's not necessarily a script because I want you to use it for your specific product, your customer segment, your language. But here's the idea. Part 1 is all about understanding their problem. If you've ever done any sales, it's very similar to that, where you want to ask them, it says, well, what are you currently, so you want to kind of like audit, like what are you currently spending on Facebook ads? How many leads are you generating per month? What's your current conversion rate from those leads to opportunities? What's your return on ad spend? You want to be sophisticated enough to ask them questions that they should know the answer to so you can kind of understand the context of where they're at. Then you say, well, what are some of the challenges that you're facing as you manage that, right? So you want to understand the problem space. What are they facing as they manage ad spend and lead gen, et cetera? And you want to surface those challenges and you want to learn. So part 1 is all about learning. It's customer development. It's not about selling at all. It's literally, I'm having a conversation with a potential client to teach me even more about the space I'm in. Other questions I'll ask is, do you know of any other products in the market that solve the problems that you're facing? I want to get some competitive understanding. They might say, yeah, there's actually these other products and we didn't decide to move forward because they're very expensive. Perfect. Well, what would your budget be to solve those problems? Again, you're trying to learn, right? And then the last question through that series of kind of like customer development questions is asking them to, I call it, well, Steve Blank calls it the IPO question. It's waving the magic wand. If you could wave a magic wand and have this problem solved, how would that look? And hopefully, and this is why it's such an important call, they describe the product that you want to build. Because if they describe a totally different solution, you might be in trouble. But it's good to know. I want to know. I want to learn. So you ask them, if you can wave a magic wand, this problem is solved, et cetera. And the reason why it's called an IPO question is because if you could actually deliver that magical experience, you're going to be on the right track to IPO. If it's truly a big pain point and enough companies have it. That's part 1 of the call, is you're there just to learn by really going deep on where they're at today, what problems they're having around that thing, then asking them about the competitors and also asking them the IPO question. Part 2, the sell. Now, if you did part 1 and you learn everything about their organization, the problem space, et cetera, and you feel like they could be a potential customer for your product, meaning that they're connected to the pain and all this other stuff, then you just ask them, it's like, hey, we've actually been working on a prototype product that we're thinking of bringing to market. Would you like to learn more? And if you do your job right and they feel understood and they feel like you really understand the problem, they'll probably say yes. That's the bridge to the next call, which is the sell. So the sell is really about just doing the demo. So when you're asking them about their challenges, well, this frustrates me, this frustrates me, this frustrates me. When you present your product, you say, well, we built it because of this, the origin story, real quick. We had this problem, we solved it. The way it works is you mentioned this problem, we also experienced that, and here's the way our product's going to solve that. You mentioned this problem, here's how our product's going to solve it. You mentioned that problem, here's how our product's going to solve it. And so what do you think about our approach to solving that problem? And then you're looking for feedback, and they give you the feedback. Here's the key, okay? This is when you know you have a client that's going to be involved, is when they start giving you advice. When somebody starts giving you advice on how to improve your product, your solution, your service, then it tells you that they're committed to you and your outcome. If they don't care about you, if they don't think that they could ever work with you, they're not going to give you the advice. Why? Because there's no reason to. There's no upside. But if they do, it means that they want the product, they're interested, and they like you, and they want to support you. So if they start giving you feedback about, like, what do you think we could do better, and they start giving you that advice, that's when you go for the offer. And the offer essentially is saying, hey, here's what we're doing. We're looking for a dozen early adopter clients. So I call it the EAP program, the early adopter program. And that program essentially gets you 50% off the annual price for in perpetuity. So essentially you get that at half price. The product's going to be launching on this date. And what we're also looking for is companies to be part of our CAB, our Customer Advisory Board, to give us product feedback. So not only are we going to be launching this on this date, but we have a roadmap that we're looking at. And we want to make sure that we have clients like yourself that can support that and get on calls and give us some feedback and review some of our product designs. We would love to have you. It sounds like you really understand the problem. You understood the market and kind of where it's going, and we're really committed to solving this. Do you want to be part of that early adopter program? And you go for the ask. And then you stop talking and you wait. Now they're going to have objections. This is where salesmanship is into place, where they're going to say, well, what happens if I don't get it built, or what's the investment, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have to be able to deal with that. So write them down, have really good answers to those questions. But that is how it works. Part 1 is all about learning. Part 2 is all about essentially enrolling. Okay, that's what I like to use, is enrolling them into your EAP, your early adopter program. Number 5, take the money. I can't tell you how often. I was just on a coaching call the other day with my Growth Accelerator clients. These are people that are kind of pre-revenue, pre-product market fit. And I had one client, John, say to me, he's like, yeah, we did the customer development calls and it's validated. People think it's a great idea. And I was like, how many calls did you make? He said, 3. That's not enough. 10 is the minimum. And one of my clients, Max, pre-sold 37 clients into his SEO product and was able to not only fund the development, but have even more left over for advertising. So you want to at least have 10 conversations to try to get 3 or 4 that's a part of your EAP program. That being said, if somebody says they're interested, you want to take the money. If somebody does not invest, when I did Flowtown, when I did Clarity, it was all about getting paid up front. If you truly believe there's value here, I want to see your financial commitment. So the way it works is they're going to pay for the whole year up front, but it's 50% off. So if you're going to charge $100 a month, that's $1,200. They get it for $600, but they got to give you the whole $600 to be part of that program, okay? So that is how it works. If you're not taking the money, I mean, I'm talking PayPal, wire transfers, I'll show up at your office, you can write me a check. Get paid, because as soon as somebody gives you money, all of a sudden the conversation changes. All of a sudden they're gonna ask real questions. They're gonna ask questions about, does this integrate with our security system? Does this integrate with Salesforce? Does this allow for multi-user accounts? What's the reporting gonna look like? And those are really important questions that they might have otherwise not asked or suggested or even talked about when you were learning, doing customer development, because the mental model changes from dollar in to all of a sudden, okay, now I really need this thing to work, so they're gonna ask really good questions, and that's when it all comes together. So get paid, take the money. So quick recap on the exact script to use to pre-sell your B2B software. First, you gotta filter out early adopters only. Number 2, you need to offer value to get them on the call. So you're essentially going to tell them what you've been learning. Number 3, it's part 1. The whole conversation is about understanding where they're at, what they've tried, what they're frustrated with, what are competitors out there, etc. So we're learning. Part 2 is the pre-sell. That's where we really go into the demo of the prototype we're building. And this is where clickable prototypes come into play. And then going for the offer. And then number 5 is you got to take the money or it doesn't count. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I want to share with you my idea to exit mini course. I talked about clickable prototypes and MVPs and pre-selling EAP programs. I go even deeper in the whole setup in that free mini course. I even talk about like how to scale your marketing, how to get your customers to prepay and use that to hire key employees like your developers, and also talk about the exit strategy so that you understand that there's only 21 people in the world that would have an incredible, meaningful impact on your life. You can click the link below to get access to that training. And if you like this video, I would love for you to smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments below what insights you've taken away from this episode. And if you are still watching, I want to encourage you, as per usual, to live a bigger life and a bigger business. And I'll see you next Monday. Oh my God, I gotta stretch. Oh, fudge pickle stuff.